So this will be talk about Drupal and mobile apps, and something we worked a lot on. I think we'll have plenty of time for our part of the presentation, and then we might want more of a discussion, sort of question session. So I hope you have some thoughts on Drupal and mobile apps. Can we use both the mics?
Yep.
So, my name is Lars Wikman. I'm a developer at Minden.
And I'm Tam Sjödin, and I'm also a developer at Minden. We're Sweden's currently fastest growing app development company, and we also develop a lot of web solutions together with our apps. Usually we use Drupal for all our backend and web solutions because we just find it to be the most stable platform with apps so far. The module we're going to talk about today is something we cooked up to bring Drupal and apps together. Currently it's a sandbox module because we just haven't got it out there on Drupal.org yet.
Still in the queue.
But it's coming very soon. The module simply implements Apple push notifications with Drupal as an API for developers.
So I was thinking we could start with a show of hands. How many here have smartphones? Okay, all of you. Anyone who doesn't have a smartphone? Anyone? Does everyone know what Apple push notifications are? How many? Okay, fair amount. How many know how they work?
5 of them.
Okay. Have any of you implemented a solution using Apple push notifications? Oh, my colleagues. Okay. Let's talk a bit about how they work. Okay, presentation stuff. When you pick up a new app from App Store, it's not uncommon that you get the question, do you want to allow this app to send you push notifications? And the option to allow or deny. And if you pick deny, we don't get to do anything fun, and this presentation would be very short. But if you allow the developer, you're essentially allowing the developer to send messages to your device and app. And then we have some work to do. An Apple push notification is a near instant best effort delivery of messages. It's not like email. You're not supposed to be guaranteed to get them. There's a limited line of how many messages an app can queue up. You can't get millions of them. But it's very fast and it's very effective. So when we allow a developer to send notifications, what we're actually allowing them to do is to generate a push key for your combination of device and app. It's unique to your device, so if you switch phones, use the same app, you're going to have another push key. If you switch out the app, but on the same device, you have another push key. It's a unique identifier, coupled with a lot of encryption, so it's really, really bothersome to work with. And it's really, really hard to replicate. So what we have to do as developers is that we have to register this key from your iOS device to some kind of backend database server. My iPad is apparently not responding.
basic flow of this communication is that the phone asks you, do you want to allow push notifications for the app? And of course we want to say yes. So we say yes, and then we send this to Drupal. And with the coupled user ID, we can interact with certain Drupal users. And then to send a message to the device.
Yeah. What we do is we register the push key, and we register it to a user in Drupal. It could be the anonymous user if you have no interest in user accounts for your app. But then, when we actually want to send a notice, the server can't connect to the device directly. So when an event is triggered on the server, such as a node is created or a cron job is run and find some reason to notify the user, you basically connect to the Apple servers, sending along the key, number of messages. You can queue a lot of messages, and you select any custom sounds, the number to show on your little iPhone icon, and any custom values you want to pass along, say a node ID or something. And you send this to the Apple server. And when it reaches the Apple server, it is pushed back to the device. And you get the notification in your phone. So how does that work? Well, the phone or iPad, your iOS device, maintains a constant connection to the Apple push servers. An encrypted, low-maintenance connection, which the server uses to push messages back. So the device is initiating the connection, but the server is using it to push. This implementation is good because it maintains a low battery drain. For example, there have been many Android apps who've been criticized for being battery hogs. Yeah, they've been running services in the background, polling every 20 minutes, checking for new email or checking for new messages. And they aren't as fast. You'll get your notification 5 minutes late. With this, we've actually run into the trouble while testing our presentation that if we try to trigger a message from the same iPad that would receive it, we would almost receive the message before we're done sending it. It's near instant. They can be delayed a few seconds, but usually it's surprisingly fast. Usually faster than the app interface response. Well, that's about how it works. Any questions on that? Not sure if I was clear, but if there aren't any questions about how this Apple push notifications works at the moment, we'll try and show you. Bit of a demonstration, what could possibly go wrong here. Yeah, I'll have to leave Keynote because Keynote does not allow itself to be interrupted by push notifications. So, we're going to be demonstrating something from the Plutra platform, which is a preschool platform we built for a client. It consists of one web system, Drupal-based, and it's a documentation platform. So when the teacher Tom here wants to document that Felix can now tie his shoes on his own, she can snap a picture or take a video of it. Then she can upload it, and the parent holding the Plutra parent app has received an account from the preschool, can follow their child's development and get notifications about well, anything that goes on. Not sure if we're having any luck with the demo. See. And basically, that was generated right now from a Drupal site using this module that we cooked up. So let's see, that was probably a blog post, yeah? What? Yeah, and
loading app delivery is obviously slower than push notifications.
And that's an interesting thing. You can't send all that much data along with a push notification. You can send some IDs and you can send a short text. Google has also made an implementation very similar to APN that's called the Android Cloud to Device Messaging Framework, C2DM, and it's a fairly nice implementation, except that it's a lot trickier to get to work, as my colleagues can vouch for, and they've taken it a bit further. You can only send, I think it's maybe 1,000 bytes, no, somewhere around.
The same is true for the Apple. There's a limit to the Apple as well.
Yeah, but it includes a title and a description field, or at least a title, which is iffy in the Google implementation. They recommend that you send a notification to the device, and the app determines what kind of notification it wants to display. It's another implementation, very Android. Not sure we'll actually receive this one. Ah, there we go. So that's me. Very good photo. Not looking nervous at all. Okay. So, demo out of the way. What about the module? What can it do? It associates push keys. Okay, I'll stay away from the speaker. It associates push keys with Drupal users. It can associate them with anonymous user 0, if you want anonymous push. It's also got services integration. How many here have worked with the services module in Drupal? Yeah, okay, a few. And it has a module for Service 2, which we've used the most, and Services 3 is fairly untested, but I made an implementation that I'm pretty sure needs work, because registering a push key is a bit odd from a CRUD perspective. But yeah, it'll work out. There's a developer API for sending and queuing messages. So actually getting them out to the devices. There's configuration for setting up the keys and all of that. It relies on the APNS PHP library for integrating with the Apple servers. Let's see, anything else I should mention about it? Let's see. Yeah, it has there's a feedback service at Apple, which allows you to check if any of the keys you're using has died or been taken out of service. So you get, if you run Chrome, you'll get feedback and get your database cleaned out as it goes along. Then there are some plans for further development, of course, and there I'm very interested in seeing what the community has to say, what you guys would need, and that sort of thing. So, yeah. Plans for future development. I think that's what I was planning on touching on next. The first thing I'm thinking of for this is rules integration. Just change the backdrop here. Rules integration for triggering push notifications easily without code. And also, of course, we'll be looking at releasing a sibling to this module for cloud-to-device messaging. It's not done for this camp, but I think it should be finished pretty soon. But then I'm interested in hearing what your thoughts are on this. Would you have needed a solution like this at some point?
Well, an obvious problem is that it's limited to Apple
Absolutely.
devices.
And you're thinking maybe you could write something generic that covers
Well,
this overall?
I guess what would really be great is if you could make a module that that handles the integration to Apple and to this Android platform and possibly others in the same module.
Yeah, building a framework and
Yes.
then implementing adapters.
Yeah.
That's absolutely a possibility. It's not very hard. The hardest part probably about implementing this sort of solution is that you need app developers. At least for Apple, you need to register for the developer account, and you need to create a push certificate, and you need to know what you're doing around Objective-C, basically, to get this to a testable level. And that's not something every Drupal studio has. It's not something that every Drupal developer can do. So my goal personally is to try and give as much of what we create back to the community as possible, at least the stuff that's interesting. So the idea is to create the APN module. Some people only need to push to Apple. Maybe it's better to build it as a framework with adapters, or maybe they're small enough to keep in standalone modules. Since we only have this one done, it would be a bit unfair to call it a notification framework. But the C2DM module, absolutely. That would cover Android. I don't know what the Windows Mobile implementation is like. Anyone here touched on Windows Mobile development? Yeah. But would any of you have needed this kind of module? Has anyone you worked with implementing Drupal and an app solution? No?
Well, I haven't worked with it, but I have thought about the idea of being able to have a Drupal app to be able to upload images directly to the website and to administer the website completely without the limitations that comes with the phone browser.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something I've personally been tossing around my head as well, and I've got a few ideas there, but they're very they're very early. Okay, so we don't have anyone who's been working on app development in here at all, except for my colleagues. Okay. Basically, it's really easy to use Drupal services module for integrating with apps, and it's basically a pleasure to work with. You need to write some services on your own because the ones that come by default aren't really what I recommend for most app cases. But any other thoughts on Drupal and the mobile? Since we don't have a lot of app developers in here, except my lovely colleagues over there, I'll leave the floor open to thoughts about Drupal, the mobile, theming, implementation. Yeah?
Well, I work as a teacher, no surprise, and I will start up a course not this coming semester but next year, where we will have a look at app development. And this is at gymnasiet, so it's secondary education, so it has to be quite easy to get into.
Okay.
I mean, an app isn't that hard to do. You can just make an HTML5 page and call it an app, really. Where should my pupils start? You are in the game, you know what is out there and what will be out there in a year. Where do you think they should start?
I've actually been in contact with quite a few courses, running app development courses, and they tend to start with Titanium Accelerator. I'm not sure if that's the best way, and it depends. Do you want to teach them programming, web development, web front-end, or are they just supposed to get a feeling for what making an app is?
Hard question to answer, really. We are, at the moment, looking at two different tracks. We are looking at Qt on Android, and we are looking at pure HTML5 web apps, and then perhaps Drupal as a backend.
For building HTML5 based web apps, PhoneGap is a nice solution to actually get them in the phone. With PhoneGap you can access the camera, you can access positional data natively. It's a communication, JavaScript communication layer between HTML and Android and iOS. So I can recommend PhoneGap. I have good experiences so far with it, at least. Especially for web devs that want to develop a quick app or try their hand at making an app, because diving into native code takes time. Coding something up in PhoneGap, that's a lot faster. Any other thoughts on the mobile? I'm open to questions.
Well, speaking of PhoneGap, what limitations do you see with that kind of interface?
One of the primary ones is performance. You'll see smoother transitions in native and Titanium-based apps. Titanium compiles to native, so it's basically native. HTML5-based transitions and animations are run through the browser, or a browser widget. So basically, they can't perform quite as well, or I believe they can't. And there are other limitations. You can't access all the hardware. You can't write an OpenGL game easily in the browser. I think you could probably do a lot of it by now, but
well, yeah, with HTML5 and
Someone else. Yeah. There is I got a question for the other Drupal developers here. There is a module called notifications in Drupal, which you can use to get notifications from I don't know, many such events happening on a Drupal site. Would it be like a good idea to integrate this Apple push notifications with that kind of module? Or have anyone tried that module, the notifications module?
Can everyone hear him?
Kan du repetera i mikrofonen?
has anyone tried working with the notifications module, and is it something we should integrate with? No one's touching the system, and they're all you front-end developers or something. Okay. Has anyone worked with the services module and building Drupal backends a lot? No? I saw like one hand. Any more? No? Okay. Yeah, okay. That's where I spend a lot of my time. But unless you have more questions. Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, we talked about HTML5 based apps versus native apps, but correct me if I'm wrong, but can you use push notifications with HTML5 based? I think you can't.
You can't unless you implement them using PhoneGap, because in PhoneGap you actually make a native app and you upload it to the App Store. But it displays a web widget and works integration through JavaScript with native components. So there's plugins specifically for working with the notifications. I don't think they're 100% all of them, but some of them are. I think Android, as always, is lagging behind. iOS development is always ahead in PhoneGap, it seems.
And you also have like 5 more platforms.
Yeah, PhoneGap covers Windows Phone and BlackBerry.
Yeah,
is it?
Symbian, WebOS.
Yeah, okay, yeah, and a lot of fallbacks. Has anyone here worked with jQuery Mobile? A few. Yeah, that's a nice match for PhoneGap. Anyone has experience integrating jQuery Mobile and Drupal? Yeah. that's something I'm looking at a bit when thinking about making some kind of Drupal administration app. But that's another and lot more complicated project. Most of the challenges regarding setting up this kind of module, such as the APM module, was related to working with the Apple ecosystem and certificates, making everything work from an encryption and security standpoint. Everything needs to be checked and double checked and included. And when you're working development like that with apps, you need to register every device you're going to use in development in a central profile, and it needs to be there are provisioning profiles, that sort of thing. So while integrating with the services themselves isn't that hard, a lot of the work goes into making sure everything clicks in the fairly strict culture of Apple. Any questions in general? Drupal backend development, mobile development, or for all I care, share your experiences on working with Drupal for mobile theming, since that's a hot topic today.
Does it cost anything to get the certificate?
You need to be an Apple developer, which costs $300 a year. Otherwise, you can't develop with. You can't generate the certificates. You need to develop with push notifications, which is one part of the hurdles on this. Okay, then I think we're done. And thank you for being patient and listening and participating.